Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, you're joining at the right time when we're jumping directly into the stories for today. Now, in a stunning tale of unrelenting struggle, Nigerians have faced a never-ending battle of fairness and equality from the dark days of colonial rule, where they fought against the shackles of oppression, to the present day, where they demand accountability from their own leaders. The quest for true independence and self-determination remains an elusive dream. We shine a light on the ongoing protests sweeping the nation as Nigerians rise up against bad governance, demanding an end to the cycle of injustice. We have a report that shows part of this particular struggle we've been talking about in the recent protests sweeping across the nation.
All right, Bennett, just take it easy.
Discussions about press freedom and protection, especially in Nigeria, have resurfaced during the coverage of the End Bad Governance protest. Once again, instances of journalists being obstructed by security operatives have been recorded. On News Central's Breakfast Show, the public relations officer of the Lagos State Police Command addressed this pressing issue.
Do journalists need to take permission from police officers before they do their work?
No, they do not.
Okay.
But if you're doing your work, you need to do it responsibly. You don't need to maybe stay in the middle of the road and cause obstruction or anything. We've seen journalists that try to, grandstand and just become a nuisance. Maybe you want to, interview people and you are so, brash about it. So once you're responsible, you don't need to be. But if you're irresponsible about it, then you will be called to order.
The use of force by security personnel on protesters has long been a subject of debate. Questions about when to administer force, how to administer it, and how much force to be used have been contentious. This issue was also addressed by the Lagos PPRO.
So police officers are empowered to use force, but the force must be commensurate with the danger they are facing. So yes, we have guns. They aren't for decoration. They are to be used not on animals but human beings when the time is right. So if the level of violence we are facing is that would take somebody's life, not just the police officer's life, even a human being's life, and there is no other way to stop that person from taking another person's life, yes, we would use live bullets. But those are extreme cases.
Media officials are essential workers entrusted with the crucial responsibility of disseminating information. Crimes against the press should neither be tolerated nor encouraged.
I want to once more reiterate what we've always said, that the safety and security of journalists, especially those in the line of duty, is very, very crucial for the protection of our democratic governance. Very important. We've always continued to highlight the need for press freedom. We've always continued to highlight the need for freedom of the press. Like I said earlier on, safety of journalists. And it's not good that at the slightest opportunity, we see that journalists are marked up for necessary clampdown, intimidation, harassment. In the instant cases, we're talking about attacks. Most of them had sustained injuries, their working gadgets taken away from them, some arrested, and all that. And it's not a good one.
To ensure that attacks on journalists become a thing of the past in Nigeria, the managing director of News Central has lodged an official complaint with the Lagos State Commissioner of Police regarding the attack on News Central's crew. The commissioner has assured that the perpetrators will be brought to justice, serving as a deterrent for others. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akide.
Obviously, we're being attacked by thugs.
All right, of course, you've seen the video, and joining us now to discuss this, we have our correspondents from across Nigeria. We have Chinwe Ugele, who put together the package from Abia State, and of course, we have Austin Azu, who's also joining us from Port Harcourt. Thank you so much, Chinwe and Austin, for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, I'll start with Chinwe. Now, we saw how the protest started with slow flame, but from the second day, the things sort of escalated. We're back to a state of uncertain calm in some parts of the country, and we don't exactly know what's next. But I'm going to ask, what do you think influenced this? A lot of people are speculating that there were subtle threats to protesters because some people claimed that, we had some activists on some of our shows earlier, and they said that some people, hoodlums actually went to houses, especially in the Ojota axis in Lagos. We don't know how true that is. We're yet to ascertain it. But some people claim that they have been threatened. And then some will speculate that the message from the president kind of splits people's opinions, you know, whether or not to protest became an uncertain thing. So what would you say led to the dying down of the protests, if to put it that way?
Okay, from my perspective, I would say it's partly what the president was unable to, say or do with his speech. A lot of people anticipated that the president's address would actually address some of the problems that the protesters pushed out there. But at the end of the day, it didn't. So right now, even though we didn't experience the protest down here, but we've been following what's been happening across the country. And the reason for the dying down of the protest, like you put it, or, the de-escalation somehow of the protest, is the role the security agencies have played. It's the role the citizens themselves have played. Because when you use the fellow citizens to attack innocent journalists who are in the field working, what have you done? You've also put fears in their minds. We know that it is our fellow citizens that are thieves and are terrorists. And then you allow them, you empower them to go out there and attack innocent journalists who are merely doing their jobs as members of the media. So those are the things that contributed to the dying down of the protest. The attacks the citizens themselves faced out there in the fields of protest, just because of they were making demands for their legitimate needs as citizens of a country. And then you clamp down on them using either thugs or security agencies. Those are the things, because I tell you sincerely, most Nigerians wouldn't just want to die like that because they're demanding for things to work out fine in Nigeria. So these are the things, to my mind, I felt made people now decide not to go out there and protest. And somehow we may not have huge number of people coming out on the final day of the protest as some of us had envisaged.
Chinwe, I'm going to come back to you based on what you said about, in your own area and eastern part of the country, not coming out to protest. Some have accused the Easterners of having some kind of conspiracy of silence. You are in the East, you will tell us more about that. But before then, I want Austin to kindly respond to Blessing's question as well. What do you think led to the, in Blessing's words, dying down of the protest? You have seen it in Delta State. Now you're in Rivers State. You've experienced 2 states now in this protest period. What do you think would have happened in both states very quickly that has watered down the protest? Today is day 8. Was supposed to end at day 10. But we've seen that it has reduced in several parts of the country. From your experience, what do you think would have led to this?
First and foremost, let me begin by saying that in Delta State, the first day of the protest seems to be more of compliance, but we had a low protester who started the protest, but we have the heavy presence of security personnel on the ground. And after a while, about 2 to 3 hours, we saw, the groups started coming in, and the number started increasing. So the procession started from Intaba roundabout in Asaba. They marched through the major Nebisi Road, make a U-turn at the FMC roundabout down to Anwan Road before they were addressed by the police, and they expressed their displeasure about the ongoing situation in Nigeria. The onward procedure to the Intaba roundabout. So when they got to Intaba roundabout, they insisted that they must go to the Summit Junction for them to begin their procession. But in between Intaba roundabout and of course, I know you might not be familiar with the road, the police came and they opened tear gas canister on them, and thereafter the protesters started dispersing here and there. I was even tear gassed on the process, So, and a couple of journalists who received the tear gas baptism. So this actually made the protesters to feel bad, and they expressed displeasure. The police who are supposed to provide them with security and other things, they couldn't continue the protest. However, not only that, so journalists were rough-handled on that same day at that same interval runabout. So when the other groups heard about the protesters, conversion and taking off and processing around the major streets and roads of Asaba, they got angry and they came back, and they met journalists who were engaging them, interacting with them, giving them the platform for them to express themselves. Before they knew what was happening, someone from behind burst on the journalist, another person burst on another journalist. So this was how some journalists were rough-handled and they were beaten up in Asaba. But however, from Asaba down to Port Harcourt, where we currently are, we saw what played out about a few days ago, about yesterday, when the protesters came out to protest, and they were, invaded by some other persons who claims to be, anti-protesters, claiming that they don't want any protest within the state capital, since the president has given a nationwide broadcast that all protesters should cease their protest and engage in dialogue. But that is not the situation at hand. We saw a couple of persons who were beaten up. We heard journalists were equally beaten up as well in Rivers here, in Port Harcourt. And this doesn't actually go well with some of us, because, however, without the media, nobody would know how the protest is going across the nation. So it's very important that the media are given, a place for them to be accommodated. Even you are for the government, or you are against the government, or you are for the protest. However, the bottom line is that you give the journalist a coverage, so the journalist will be able to do his job or her job effectively,
Austin,
without being harassed or intimidated.
All right.
So what we've
Austin,
seen is that
I need to
the journalists have
to pause on that. Please hold that thought concerning journalists just for a short while. We have Umar Kirawa who's joining us from the north. Kirawa, before I come to you, and the north, I know we had more of the protests in the north. I want to quickly ask Chin, we're coming back to you. How come we didn't have any of the protests in the southeast? It's a question that many have asked. Some are saying there was a conspiracy of silence by the southeasterners, and others are saying that the silence itself was their own form of protest. We had a guest who said that. I'm still trying to make sense of that statement. But Chinwe, you tell us, what happened in the southeast that made it the most peaceful region in the country in the past 8 days?
Or what did not happen in the
Or what did not happen? That's a good question.
Okay, what did not happen was that there was no protest. There still is no protest, and there may not be any protest until after the 10th of August. I believe that the people of the Southeast are coming from a position of silence, because remember, over the years, we've had this sit at home every Monday in the Southeast, that are being enforced by non-state actors. So now it's become, whether intentionally or inadvertently, a way of life for the people of the Southeast. So when they want to protest, or when they are angry at something, they keep quiet, they stay indoors. So probably that is part of their own protest, or that is what they have accepted. But I can tell you that there was no meeting where any one of them, came together with the people and agreed, because it is not a matter of what the governors or the stakeholders of the region said or did. It's a matter of what the citizens themselves have decided to do. I think it got to a point where the people got tired of being victims. They got tired of dying. Because if you've been in this part of the country, you'll understand what I'm saying exactly. Because I couldn't even imagine the picture or the video I saw where some children or some young people were playing with armored tank. I was just imagining in my mind that it happened in the Southeast, the number of lives that could have been lost to that. So I think it was a kind of wisdom they developed to stay out of trouble sometimes, and just watch things unfold. And then if you ask me, I can also tell you that probably the people felt that they had protested during the election. And that was their highest protest that they did through the ballot. So any other thing, because from the people I interviewed before now, they said those things. So any other thing now is belated to them. So anything they couldn't achieve through the ballots for them is waste of time. So that is why you see silence in the Southeast. And even when I stand on the road to do my go live to report about the non-participation of the zone, people who drive past, who walk past me keep saying, we are not protesting, we are not interested, we don't want to protest. Leave up, you don't have to continue talking about it. So it's like, we don't want to do something, and you people keep asking why we are not doing it. So, but I'm not sure they are interested in protesting about anything. Not that there is no hunger in the Southeast.
All right. Thank you so much, Chinwe, for giving us updates from your end. And yeah, it's quite spot on. A lot of people are concerned as to, okay, you're not protesting, but you keep rubbing it in that you're not protesting. But once again, thank you for joining us and giving us the update. We also have Umar Kirawa joining us from Borno State. We mentioned that earlier. Umar, I'm going to quickly ask you what the situation is in Borno State before I even ask anything about the president's speech. What is it like currently in Borno State? We know that there are curfews in some certain areas in the north. Is it the same situation in Borno State?
Well, so far so good. Nothing like curfew. Peace is back to Maiduguri after the day one of the protests, which saw a lot of children and then other young persons trooping the streets to join their counterparts across the country to advocate for end of bad governance and so on and so forth. So the situation in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, and other local government areas within the state is calm, peaceful, as people are going about their day-to-day activities, the struggle for survival in Nigeria, of course. This is what they are going through now. And, their situation is peculiar, taking into consideration the years of the insurgency and so on and so forth. So, by and large, people are struggling to survive in Maiduguri and other parts of the state.
Just before we let everybody go and we relax this topic, I'll start with you, Umaru. You were the last we came to, but you'll be the first I'll start with now. I'd like us to just take one minute to express how the protest affected us as journalists. Tell me your own experience, Umar Kirawa, in 1 minute. What do you think you experienced during this protest that may have been different from other protests you've seen, and how did this impact on you as a journalist particularly?
Well, it was, journalism, as far as I'm concerned, it's never an invitation to a tea party. It's usually punctuated with the good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly. For me here in Borno, experiencing the protests, the end bad governance protest, it's a whole lot of experience. I never thought I would leave. I never thought that I will scale that first day of the protest because of the violent nature of the people, the violent nature of the protest. People, yes, came out en masse to advocate change, improvement, and so on and so forth. But the way we were thrown, me and my colleagues, the way the tear gas, the shouting, some of the things I can't even explain because we were just running, trying to feed, give information about what is happening, update, ask even the protesters to tell us what they want and so on. And so the experience is a mixed experience. The support we got from the police and even some of the protesters, some people assisted us, some people are shouting on us, some people are complaining, why should we do like this? Why don't we do like this? So it's a whole lot of experience actually, but life in itself is expected sometimes, but the experience is something else. We just hope that things get better and people go about their day-to-day activities smoothly.
All right. Thank you so much, Kira. From the north, we move to southwest. Austin, 1 minute. Can you tell us how your own experience was in 1 minute and how this impacted, you as a journalist?
Foremost, one of the protests, I received the baptism of tear gas. I've never received that before, and some of my colleagues, and not only that as well. And secondly, the protesters seems not to be organized, so therefore it affected our, production and our productivity on that same day. But so far, what I've learned so far is that from this protest as a journalist is that one, no matter how it is, anytime you are covering a protest, you must be security conscious, you must be vigilant, and take cognizance of your environment and know when to shoot and when not to shoot. Because, you must report the story, but don't be the one to be reported. So that's what I've learned so far from this protest. Security conscious and don't be the one to be reported so that it doesn't end in a bad note.
All right. Gentlemen and lady, okay, I think the lady has left us already. But
well, there's one lady here. So.
Oh, okay. But thank you so much, Austin Azu, who is currently in Port Harcourt, covering South, and Umar Kirawa up in the north. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let's please stay safe even in the last few days of the protest. But thank you for joining us once again. Well, Blessings, very quickly before we go on a break, you didn't cover the protest, did you? Well, you did from the studio.
Yes, I did. I covered you guys out in this.
Exactly. What is? I know my own feeling from the time you spoke to the journalists on ground. What would you say stood out for you concerning this protest as it affects journalists?
So I think that there's been an unnecessary apprehension from the part of, I wouldn't say whether or not the government or security agencies, but I know that this particular protest, before it even started, brought a certain kind of fear that we could not explain. And that's why it was as though they did almost everything to try and thwart it. But eventually, when it started, it was more of, for me, watching from a third-party view, it was more of, there's a certain level, like we've talked about press freedom for a long time, but it's like this time around, it was an intentional attempt. And this is, apology to the security agencies, of course they're doing their best, but it's like there was an intentional attempt to even use the narrative of the media to stop so it was like at any cost. I remember when you went to, I think, Lekki Toll Gate,
yes.
And then they approached you and said something about, and I would not forget that, they said something like, is this what we ask you to cast? And for me, it was like, this is not, we're not trying to help any party sell a narrative. We're here to tell the truth. So for me, when it comes to press freedom, it is as though, once again, Nigeria has dampened that. With it's the height of disrespect, looking at what happened to you and, of course, some other media personnel out there. We owe the people the truth. We owe them the story. So if anybody should even be protected, I mean, we've heard things like, oh, as a journalist, when you go out to cover a story, in the interview this morning, he was also saying that, don't do too much, do your beat. We do our part, and then we expect to be protected by these same people who come to harass us. So for me, it was just a lot of mixed feelings.
Mixed feelings, truly. But one thing is certain, journalists in Nigeria will not stop telling the story as it should be told. We're not going to sell the wrong narrative. We'll say it as it is until freedom of the press becomes stamped permanently in the nation. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we're leaving Nigeria and going to the UK, but we're still discussing protests, or in this case, riots. Do stay with us.